I still remember that electrifying moment as if it were splashed in neon across my soul, the moment at my wife's work dinner when, amid the clinking of glasses and polite laughter, she publicly insulted me in front of everyone. In those first 100 heartbeats, every dream we had built together, every silent sacrifice I'd made to support our shared ambitions, shattered into a cascade of disbelief and seething defiance. Her cutting remark, delivered with icy condescension, wasn't merely a joke, it was a declaration that I was worthless in her eyes. And in that painful instant I vowed, if she would belittle me so brazenly, then I would show the world my true worth by taking over her company the very next day. 4 years, I believed our marriage was a partnership, a bond built on mutual support, shared values, and the promise of a secure future. I had labored tirelessly, sacrificing late nights and personal indulgences, to provide a stable foundation for both of us. Every day, I put in long hours at my job, meticulously saving every extra dollar, convinced that our future was worth every hardship. I supported her ambitions unconditionally, standing by her through career highs and lows, always believing that our successes were intertwined. Yet, beneath the veneer of our everyday life, subtle cracks had begun to form. I noticed the occasional dismissive glance, the half-hearted compliments, the way she would laugh off any mention of my contributions. I brushed them aside, attributing them to stress or the pressures of corporate life. But nothing prepared me for the devastating blow that came one fateful evening. It was a chic, modern venue adorned with tasteful decor and softly lit tables, set up to celebrate her promotion at work, a night that was meant to be a milestone of achievement and progress. I arrived with cautious optimism, dressed in a tailored suit and brimming with pride at the thought of celebrating her success. However, as the night unfolded, the atmosphere shifted. Colleagues mingled with genuine excitement, and a warm glow enveloped the room, yet I found myself increasingly isolated. At one point, during a toast meant to honor her accomplishments, she turned to me with a sneer and remarked, "I guess some husbands are just too insignificant to contribute anything real." The words sliced through me like a sharpened blade, leaving me stunned as the room fell into an awkward silence before resuming its festive chatter. In that moment, surrounded by smiling faces and polite applause, I felt the full force of betrayal. It wasn't merely that she had insulted me, it was that she had done so publicly, deliberately, as if to erase my presence and diminish my value. I left the dinner that night in a daze, my mind a storm of humiliation and determination. Walking alone through the quiet streets, the cool night air did little to soothe the burning in my chest. Every step felt like a solemn promise to myself that I would no longer be defined by her disdain. I recalled the years of silent effort, the sacrifices made without expectation of recognition, and in that overwhelming moment, I decided that I would reclaim my dignity in the most decisive way possible. I vowed to take over her company, the very institution that had become a symbol of her misplaced priorities, and prove beyond any doubt that my worth was not only intact but rising. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in a relentless pursuit of understanding and strategy. I revisited every memory of our time together, analyzing every conversation and every subtle sign I might have missed. I pored over documents, scrutinized emails, and even discreetly reached out to trusted colleagues to gather insights into the internal dynamics of her workplace. What I uncovered was startling. While I had long assumed our partnership was based on mutual respect, the reality was that my contributions had been consistently undervalued, and my efforts had been overshadowed by her ambition. The very company that had celebrated her promotion was, in a way, complicit in a narrative that devalued my role, one that she now seemed determined to exploit. My nights became a blur of restless thought and meticulous planning. I sat in my study until the early hours of the morning, scribbling notes, drafting strategies, and outlining the steps necessary to reclaim my rightful place in both our personal and professional worlds. I sought the counsel of financial advisors and legal experts, determined to understand the intricacies of the company's structure and how I might assert control. Every conversation, every piece of advice fueled my resolve. I began to see that the betrayal, as crushing as it had been, was also a turning point, a catalyst for an extraordinary comeback. If she could publicly humiliate me, then I would rise to a level of success that would render her insult meaningless. I would take over her company, not out of petty revenge, but as a declaration that my worth was undeniable and that I was capable of building a legacy on my own terms. I immersed myself in research, poring over financial statements and company records with a surgeon's precision. I analyzed market trends, examined the company's leadership structure, and began to map out a potential strategy for a takeover. Every detail mattered, each contract, every board meeting minute, each subtle nuance of corporate governance. With each passing day, the plan began to crystallize in my mind. I was not content merely to be the husband who had been insulted. I was determined to be the man who would reshape our destiny. I realized that the opportunity to take over the company was not just about seizing power, it was about redefining success and proving to myself and to the world that I was more than what she had claimed I was. As I formulated my strategy, I also began to rebuild my sense of self-worth outside the confines of our failed relationship. I reached out to old friends and mentors who had always believed in my potential, sharing with them my newfound vision for the future. Their encouragement and unwavering support bolstered my determination, reminding me that I had always been capable of greatness, even if I had been blinded by the illusion of our shared life. In quiet moments, I took long walks in the early morning light, letting the rhythm of my footsteps wash away the bitterness of rejection. Those solitary journeys became meditative rituals, a time to reflect on my aspirations and to silently vow that I would never again be defined by someone else's narrow perspective of my worth. During this intense period of self-reclamation, I also revisited the creative passions that had once brought color to my life. I returned to writing with a fervor, channeling my anger, sorrow, and emerging hope into long, flowing narratives that detailed every twist and turn of my journey. My journal transformed into a canvas on which I painted the raw emotions of betrayal and the gradual, empowering process of rebuilding. I even began to share snippets of my story on a private blog, where anonymous readers responded with messages of empathy and encouragement. Their words resonated deeply with me, reinforcing the belief that while my pain was personal, it was also a universal experience, and that my journey could serve as a beacon for others seeking to reclaim their self-worth. The more I immersed myself in this dual process of professional strategy and personal healing, the clearer it became that my path forward was one of complete autonomy. I was no longer willing to be defined by the limitations imposed on me by a relationship that had betrayed its very foundation. Every painstaking step of my plan, every sleepless night spent drafting strategies and analyzing figures, was a declaration of independence, a bold statement that I would seize control of my destiny, regardless of the emotional scars that remained. I began to set new, ambitious goals for my future, ones that extended far beyond the confines of our broken partnership. I envisioned a life where I would lead not only in the boardroom but also in my own personal adventures, a life rich with travel, creativity, and the pursuit of passions long neglected. I meticulously charted a roadmap for professional growth, identifying key milestones that would pave the way for a successful takeover of the company, a process that promised to elevate my status and redefine my role in an industry that had long overlooked my contributions. With every new goal, my resolve strengthened, each objective a stepping stone toward the future I was determined to claim. In this transformative period, I found that my inner strength began to overshadow the sting of her insults. The betrayal that had once threatened to break me had instead become the fuel for a fire that burned brighter with each passing day. I learned to channel my pain into productive energy, to let every setback be a lesson in resilience, and to embrace the uncertainty of the future as an invitation to reinvent myself. I came to understand that the journey of self-discovery was as much about reclaiming what had been lost as it was about discovering untapped potential. With each hard-won victory, whether a successful business negotiation, a positive review from a mentor, or a quiet moment of personal triumph, I inched closer to a future where my worth was undeniable. In the silent hours of the night, as I pored over spreadsheets and drafted plans for a takeover that was as audacious as it was meticulously calculated, I felt a stirring of hope, a promise that the scars of betrayal would soon transform into the foundations of my new identity. I envisioned the day when I would walk into a boardroom with my head held high, armed with a strategy that not only showcased my financial acumen but also my unwavering determination to build a legacy on my own terms. I saw the very people who had once dismissed me now looking at me with awe and respect, their previous derision replaced by admiration for the man who had risen from the ashes of a broken marriage to become a formidable force in his own right. In the weeks following the decisive moment at the boardroom, I began to see the full impact of the transformation that had taken shape in my life. The takeover of the company was not simply a bold act of business acumen, it was a metamorphosis, a rebirth of my very identity that reverberated through every facet of my existence. I remember that fateful day as if it were etched into my memory, the way I walked into the boardroom with a calm determination, my documents meticulously arranged and my mind sharp with strategy. Every word I spoke resonated with conviction, and as I outlined the new vision for the company, I saw in the eyes of the board members a dawning recognition of my true worth. It was a moment of public vindication, a powerful counterpoint to the humiliation I had suffered at that work dinner. I had turned her cutting insult into a stepping stone, and in doing so, I not only reclaimed my dignity but also redefined the future of an enterprise that had long been overshadowed by personal agendas. After the takeover, my days transformed into a relentless pursuit of excellence. I dove headfirst into reshaping the company's culture. I dismantled outdated hierarchies and replaced them with a structure that celebrated innovation, accountability, and above all, the recognition of each individual's contributions. I restructured departments, streamlined processes, and introduced systems of transparency that ensured every voice was heard. It wasn't about petty revenge, it was about rebuilding an organization where integrity and merit were the cornerstones. I remember the late nights spent in the conference room, poring over financial reports and strategic forecasts, feeling each new plan as both a personal victory and a step toward the company's rejuvenation. Every decision was made with the clarity of purpose that comes only from having been through a crucible of betrayal and emerging stronger on the other side. Yet, the professional triumph was only one aspect of my journey. Emotionally, I underwent a metamorphosis that reshaped my entire being. In the solitude of those long nights, I allowed myself to grieve for the partnership I had once cherished, a love that had been tainted by public humiliation and personal betrayal. I visited the quiet corners of my favorite park at dawn, the crisp air and gentle rustle of leaves a soothing counterpoint to the raw memories of that painful dinner. There, amidst the whisper of the wind, I reflected on the lessons learned. I came to see that every insult, every dismissive remark, was not a measure of my inadequacy, but a catalyst that forced me to re-examine my values and ultimately to rediscover my self-worth. In therapy sessions, I painstakingly unraveled the layers of hurt, learning to forgive not out of weakness, but as a necessary step to liberate myself from the chains of past pain. I began to understand that the scars I bore were symbols of my resilience, a testament to the battles fought and the victories earned against overwhelming odds. With time, I reconnected with old friends and forged new relationships that nourished my spirit. I realized that those who had once celebrated her at the expense of my dignity were now mere echoes in the background of a life I was actively reconstructing. I surrounded myself with people who believed in mutual respect and genuine support. We spent hours in long, heartfelt conversations, sharing stories of adversity and triumph, and I discovered that true friendship is forged not in the absence of pain but in the willingness to rise above it. Their unwavering encouragement reaffirmed my belief that I was not defined by a single moment of public humiliation, but by the countless acts of perseverance that had brought me to this point. Meanwhile, the company itself began to transform under my leadership. I introduced innovative ideas that revitalized our products, diversified our market reach, and positioned us as a trailblazer in the industry. The very culture of the organization shifted. What was once a space of subtle dismissals became a hub of creativity and collaboration. I led initiatives that focused on recognizing every team member's effort, instituting regular feedback sessions and reward programs that celebrated success. This transformation was not without resistance. Change always breeds a certain amount of turmoil. But I was prepared to navigate the choppy waters, drawing upon the inner strength I had cultivated during my darkest hours. Every setback in the transition only served to reinforce my resolve. I held steadfast to my vision, knowing that true innovation often arises from challenging the status quo and daring to dream differently. Financially, the takeover also marked the beginning of an era of meticulous stewardship and growth. I reevaluated our company's investments, cutting away redundant costs and redirecting resources into ventures with promising returns. I worked closely with our newly appointed financial team to develop strategies that not only recovered lost value but also created a robust pathway for future expansion. I recall the sense of satisfaction I felt when quarterly reports began to reflect a marked improvement in our profit margins, a tangible validation that my decisions were not driven by spite, but by a genuine commitment to excellence. Each successful quarter was a brick laid in the foundation of a new legacy, one built on integrity, innovation, and the unwavering pursuit of success. Beyond the boardroom, I continued to invest in my personal growth with the same passion that had fueled my professional ascent. I rediscovered hobbies that once brought me joy, painting, writing, and even learning to play the guitar, and each creative pursuit became an outlet for expressing the complex tapestry of emotions that had defined my journey. I found that art and music provided a means of catharsis, a way to translate my pain into beauty, and every brushstroke or musical note was a celebration of my renewed spirit. I even began attending creative workshops and connecting with artists who, like me, had transformed their struggles into masterpieces of resilience. These creative endeavors not only enriched my inner life but also reminded me that the human spirit is capable of profound renewal, that even in the aftermath of the deepest betrayal, beauty can be reborn. In quiet moments of solitude, I also reflected on the true meaning of forgiveness and the art of letting go. I realized that holding on to resentment would only tether me to the past, preventing me from fully embracing the limitless future that lay ahead. I learned to forgive her, not to absolve her of responsibility, but to free myself from the chains of bitterness that threatened to hold me back. With each day that passed, I felt lighter, more unburdened by the weight of old wounds. Forgiveness, I discovered, was not a concession of defeat but a powerful act of self-liberation, a declaration that I was no longer defined by the mistakes of the past, but by the potential of the future. As I continued to build this new chapter, I set ambitious goals that stretched the boundaries of what I thought possible. I envisioned expanding our company into untapped markets, launching cutting-edge products, and creating a corporate culture that was as inclusive as it was innovative. I saw a future where my leadership would not only drive profit but also inspire others to strive for excellence. I attended industry events, networked with forward-thinking leaders, and even began mentoring young professionals who reminded me so much of my former self, full of potential yet held back by self-doubt. These mentoring sessions became a source of immense satisfaction. Each time I helped someone unlock their potential, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment that further fueled my own drive to succeed. Throughout all these endeavors, my life became a tapestry of transformation, a rich, multifaceted mosaic where every thread was woven from the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. I became the embodiment of resilience, a living testament to the fact that even when life shatters your world, you have the power to rebuild it, stronger and more magnificent than ever before. Every challenge I faced, every setback that once threatened to crush me, was now a stepping stone toward an even brighter horizon. I learned that true success is not measured by the absence of pain, but by the courage to rise, rebuild, and transform adversity into opportunity. In the quiet aftermath of that painful wedding dinner, when I had once been humiliated and dismissed, I had transformed every hurtful word and every moment of exclusion into the fuel that propelled me to the pinnacle of success. I had taken control of my destiny with a determination that left no room for regret or second-guessing. My journey had taken me from a place of profound isolation to one of exuberant freedom, from being defined by the judgments of others to embracing my true, unassailable worth. And as I stand at the threshold of tomorrow, with every victory etched into the tapestry of my life, I know that I have rewritten my story, a story of betrayal, resilience, and ultimately triumphant rebirth. Now, as I stand on the threshold of a life redefined, a life that I carved out of betrayal and heartbreak, I feel the profound transformation of every moment that led me here. The man who once endured silent humiliation when my wife declared I'd never leave is now the very architect of my destiny. Every step I took, every tear shed in solitude, every ounce of anger I transformed into a resolute drive has culminated in this astonishing reality. While she remains trapped in the past, clinging to a life that no longer sustains her, I am thriving beyond measure, living my best life on my own terms. In the weeks following that pivotal moment at her work dinner, when her public insult had reverberated through every fiber of my being, I channeled that searing pain into a fire of determination. I re-examined every detail of our shared history, questioning the sacrifices I had made and realizing that I had been undervalued for far too long. That day, as I silently vowed to reclaim my worth, I embarked on a journey of transformation that extended far beyond the confines of our crumbling marriage. I began by reimagining my career, leveraging every ounce of experience and skill I had accumulated to forge a path that was uniquely mine. I immersed myself in new projects, embraced opportunities to lead, and allowed my innovative ideas to shine in every board meeting. Each professional triumph was a direct rebuttal to her dismissive words, a declaration that my contributions were indispensable and that I was capable of propelling not just a company, but my entire future to unprecedented heights. Simultaneously, I restructured my financial life with an intensity one had never known before. I sought the counsel of top financial advisors, analyzed our joint assets, and meticulously reallocated resources to ensure that I would never again be at the mercy of someone else's reckless decisions. Every upward tick on my financial statements became a tangible symbol of my reclaimed independence, a testament to the fact that I was building a secure, prosperous future on my own terms. I diversified my investments, set aside a reserve for unforeseen challenges, and even explored new entrepreneurial ventures that excited me and aligned with my passions. With each calculated move, I transformed the financial instability that had once threatened our family into a foundation for long-term success. But the most profound change, the one that redefined me at my very core, was emotional. I immersed myself in therapy and self-reflection, confronting the deep-seated wounds that had festered in silence for too long. I learned that forgiveness is not about absolving the offender, but about liberating oneself from the chains of bitterness that bind the heart. In those long, soul-searching sessions, I began to understand that her insults and the betrayal I suffered were reflections of her own limitations, not a measure of my true worth. Gradually, the raw pain that once threatened to overwhelm me transformed into a quiet strength, a conviction that I was capable of rising above the darkest chapters of my life. I reconnected with old friends, forged new bonds with those who valued authenticity over pretense, and discovered that genuine relationships are built on mutual respect and shared resilience. Each conversation, every word of encouragement, stitched together the torn fabric of my identity, replacing scars of the past with symbols of renewal. The more I focused on rebuilding my life, the more I began to see opportunities where once there were only obstacles. I decided to embrace adventure as a means of reclaiming my freedom. I booked solo trips to destinations I had long dreamed of exploring, immersing myself in new cultures and experiencing the world with unbridled enthusiasm. Whether I was wandering through ancient streets lined with history, sailing on a serene lake under a canopy of stars, or simply watching the sunrise over a distant horizon, every journey reaffirmed the fact that my life was now mine to shape. The thrill of new experiences became a counterpoint to the bitterness of the past, a living, breathing celebration of the resilience of the human spirit. I even documented these adventures in a series of heartfelt blog posts that resonated with countless readers who, like me, had once felt trapped by circumstances beyond their control. As the seasons changed, so too did my perspective on the future. I set ambitious, clear goals for my professional ascent, aims that pushed me to innovate, to lead, and to create a legacy that would outshine the shadow of my former life. I envisioned launching groundbreaking projects, mentoring rising stars, and even contributing thought leadership to industry publications. Every boardroom presentation, every strategic decision, was now infused with a confidence born from the crucible of personal struggle. I no longer sought validation from those who had once dismissed me. Instead, I measured success by the quiet satisfaction of knowing I was living authentically and fearlessly. In those rare, reflective moments, when the noise of daily life quieted and I could sit alone with my thoughts, I would often revisit the memory of that fateful work dinner. I recalled her smug smile and the cutting remark that had once stung so deeply. But now those memories served as a reminder of how far I had come. They were the fuel that had ignited my transformation and the benchmarks against which I measured my growth. I had turned every cruel word into a stepping stone, every moment of rejection into an opportunity to assert my own value. And as I looked around at the life I had built, a thriving career, robust financial security, rich and genuine relationships, I knew that I had truly ascended beyond the limitations of my past. The journey, however, was not solely measured by the milestones of success. It was also marked by the quiet, everyday victories that transformed my internal world. I learned to greet each day with gratitude, to see beauty in small moments, a warm cup of coffee in the morning, a kind word from a colleague, the simple pleasure of reading a good book in the afternoon. These seemingly insignificant moments wove together to form a tapestry of resilience that sustained me through the toughest times. I discovered that happiness is not a destination, but a journey, a series of choices made every day to embrace life fully, to rise above the hurt, and to create a future that is as expansive as it is fulfilling. And then came the subtle yet undeniable signs that my ex-wife was beginning to feel the consequences of her choices. I heard whispers among mutual acquaintances, subtle hints in social media posts, that she was watching my transformation from afar, a mixture of disbelief, regret, and perhaps even a tinge of envy. While I did not relish the thought of her pain, it served as a quiet affirmation that I had reclaimed my power. I was no longer the man who had been defined by her scorn. I was a man whose life was vibrant, whose achievements were undeniable, and whose future was filled with possibilities. The irony was palpable. The very person who had once tried to belittle me was now forced to witness a resurgence so complete that it left no doubt about my worth. This, I knew, was not a victory born of revenge, but the natural consequence of living a life aligned with one's true potential. As I stand here now, reflecting on the winding path that led me from the depths of betrayal to the heights of personal triumph, I feel an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and inner peace. I have transformed the most painful moments of my past into the foundation of a future that is both secure and inspiring. Every challenge I faced, Every setback that once threatened to break me has been woven into the fabric of a new identity, a mosaic of resilience, creativity, and unwavering self-belief. I no longer define myself by the scars of a failed relationship. Instead, I measure my success by the strength I've found within, by the courage to pursue my dreams unabashedly, and by the joy of living a life that is entirely my own. In this new chapter, I am not bound by the limitations of what once was. I have embraced my freedom, nurtured my passions, and built a future that radiates with possibility. The lessons of the past guide me, not as chains of regret, but as stepping stones toward a destiny that is rich with promise. My story is one of transformation, a testament to the power of resilience in the face of profound betrayal. And as I continue to write the next chapters of my life, I do so with an unwavering conviction that my best days are yet to come. A future where I live unapologetically, love freely, and continue to rise above every challenge with the unyielding spirit of a man reborn.